Welcome back to Riff Ram Review right here on KTCU The Choice. I'm Zion Trammell here with Ian Napetian and Seth Dowdle. We're going to be wrapping it up here with our final segment talking about the NFL and specifically the Dallas Cowboys in a pretty big trade that just went down just a few days ago. The Cowboys acquiring quarterback Trey Lance from the 49ers in exchange for a 2024 fourth-round pick, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, 2024. And it's a pretty big trade. The Cowboys don't usually trade for a lot of quarterbacks. I can't remember the last time they did. And, you know, obviously you feel confident with Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. But I want to tell a quick story real quick because one of my friends from the Bay Area, he is a big-time Trey Lance fan. It's kind of weird. I don't.
Is he a North Dakotan?
Nope. He's been in the Bay Area his whole life. He's a Trey Lance stan. Like, I don't. You know, and despite the injuries, like, he stuck through with it. And, you know, he's kind of excited for this season because he thought, you know, he'd get an opportunity. But Brock Purdy did take them all, you know, the NFC Championship game. So when he found out he got traded, and of all teams to the Dallas Cowboys, who he does not like, he was devastated. And I was laughing, like, it was pretty funny because I was like, yeah, we just got Trey Lance. Like, and actually, like, back in May, I went to a Rangers-A's game, and Trey Lance was there. And I sent him a video to mess with him. I was like, oh, Trey Lance, future Cowboy. I meant, oh, like, no. But, you know, and then it actually happened. And so, yeah, it's pretty funny. I'm sorry, Jason, that happened, you know, but.
Shout out Jason.
Yeah.
Shout out Jason for his, you know, weird love of the third string quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, but it is an interesting trade, and I think it's, you know, obviously the Cowboys see something in him. They see an opportunity to utilize him. Maybe this season. Maybe, you know, if Dak goes down, they feel like, you know, maybe Cooper Rush can't take the reins because defenses might have figured him out. They really haven't seen Trey Lance, so Trey Lance offers something different. Who knows?
I think putting expectations on Trey Lance is like putting expectations on the Dallas Cowboys as a whole nowadays. I think y'all could agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, with the Cowboys, I mean, again, this disclaimer, this is a Raiders fan speaking about the Cowboys. So, you know, I'm not as in tune with, you know, the Cowboys as other folks. But I just feel like with the Cowboys, the expectations are always incredibly high. And it's not that that's not okay. It's just certain seasons, you got to know that's not what you're going to get, right? But I think what the problem is with that is with the Cowboys, you just haven't been up to par at all.
Well, there's a standard that was set,
exactly
that was
standard
set a long time ago that has not been met.
Yep.
It has been since before I was born and before you were born, Zion, that the Cowboys competed in an SCU championship game, and that expectation is still there for, you know. I think honestly, myself and a lot of Cowboys fans in this generation have grown up and they have not seen that kind of success, have tempered them to a fair extent. And I'm not going into this year with any expectations. There's not a single one, not a single lick of expectations in my body.
But they have improved, and, like, yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. That's a healthy thing for you, Seth, to not set expectations for the Cowboys, because they have broken my heart so many times, man. It's hard out here, man, being a Cowboys fan.
If I had a crying Jordan-esque drop, I would play it right now.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they've not made an NFC Championship game with incredible talent, with Tony Romo, Des Bryant, Jason Witten, you know, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel, like a ton of really, really talented players have come through this organization and have nothing to show for it. But they've taken a different strategy this offseason, which I was really pleased to see, and is make trades. And it's like, what? The Cowboys don't acquire, they build their team through the draft. That's always what they've been doing, you know, for several years since I've been watching the Cowboys. It's build the team through the draft. You look at the entire roster, pretty much almost every single, like, player is through the draft, and a couple guys they've signed and traded. This offseason, they traded for Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. Great additions. Now they traded for Trey Lance. It seems like Jerry and Steven are sitting here like, okay, it actually has kind of been a while, hasn't it? When you kind of need to do something about it. So I can respect that personally, that they're doing something different because you can't just build a team through the draft. You've seen Super Bowl winning teams in the past make big trades and have helped them win.
Yeah, and kind of just, I guess, continuing on that subject, right? Just like you said, Cowboys have never been a team to make those trades and build around trade players, right?
Yeah.
They've always been, hey, draft these guys, get them in young, kind of, cultivate them into an NFL, all-around NFL player, and then have them go do, and prosper for your team, right? And I mean, it's kind of good that you need that. And at some point, you kind of, right, have to look at the drawing board and say, okay, this hasn't worked. And I mean, I think if I'm a Cowboys fan, it's inspiring to see that the board is actually kind of looking at themselves and saying, hey, we're trying something else. This may or may not work. I mean, Stephon Gilmore's getting older. Brandon Cooks has definitely fallen off as, compared to what he used to be.
Yeah.
But these are inspiring signs if you're a fan to just kind of see this new philosophy that the team is trying to take on.
And Gilmore had a good season last year. He is older, but he did have a good year last year, and he's an excellent number 2 with Trayvon.
On your point of trades, and both y'all's point on trades, I guess, the biggest trade, arguably in the NFL's history, but the biggest trade in Cowboys history, was a trade that the Cowboys sent away Herschel Walker to get draft picks, and those draft picks ended up, leading to Troy Aikman and everyone else that was involved. Emmitt Smith, yes, yeah. And all a lot of other people that were involved in those '90s championship teams. But that's exactly right. Those are picks, and the Cowboys have drafted well historically, and I think they still continue to draft well. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for any draft pick until they turn into a Taco Charlton-esque player.
Yeah, that's the only pick they've really kind of missed on in the first round.
It is a very impressive track record. But again, expectations for this season are, for me at least, are tempered. But, a lot of people have, great expectations for what the Cowboys could be. And a lot of people, want to see them not meet those expectations, frankly, right?
Yeah, and because the Eagles are the best team in the NFC still. I mean, they are so loaded at every position. Jalen Hurts is remarkable. The Giants are going to be good this year. Washington, I really have no idea. But they're still going to be a tough team to beat.
Sam Howell, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, so the NFC East is tough, but yeah, if you look at teams, you look at Super Bowl teams, and I wanted to give some examples, like the Rams, with what they did. They gave up almost all of their draft picks, but it worked because they won
to the middle of the table.
Yeah,
right?
They won. They went all in. They went all in and won a Super Bowl, and that's something like the Cowboys don't have to do that, because I would like the Cowboys to keep their picks because they're good at it. But yeah, the Amari Cooper trade was great and it helped. But, let's see if you can go the extra mile. See if you give up, a couple extra picks. See if you can really improve the roster, because this team, I would be so sad if Dak Prescott retired without even making it to an NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott has meant so much to the Cowboys organization. He's a class act. He's a great leader. He gets a lot of criticism, but that's what happens when you're the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. It's the most scrutinized position in all of sports, arguably, is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. I would hate to see him not win a Super Bowl in a Cowboys uniform. Totally honest. And it sucks that Ezekiel Elliott couldn't win one. He went to New England, and I hope he does great. But, it's frustrating. But I still have optimism, and I think the Cowboys can be pretty good this year. But, yeah, it's taking that next step.
There's other things in the NFL to be excited about other than the Cowboys, though, as I kind of try to pivot here. Back to kind of a TCU kind of centric talk. TCU obviously, had all those draft picks, and I am super excited to see how a lot of these guys flesh out in their respective teams. We got a list here of everyone that is either on a 53-man roster. Today was cut day, or yesterday was cut day. Either on a 53-man roster or is on a practice squad. And it is a extensive list and a very exciting list. As a Horned Frog fan, it's cool to see a lot of purple invading the NFL.
And it's just players from last year, too, that we have here. This doesn't even include, other guys. Andy Dalton still, but, yeah, last year's team. I'm taking Quentin Johnson first overall. That's all I got to say.
Oh, man, yeah. No, I mean, at least from a TCU standpoint, and for everyone here that's in Fort Worth, that's TCU fan or just grew up around the Horned Frogs, right? I mean, I think it's really neat to see these guys going on and pursuing these careers, right? I mean, obviously every player in the NFL comes from, the whoever that high school is that produced that talent is always going to be proud, or whoever that university is that produced that talent, those folks are going to be proud. But for us, now that we're students here at TCU, and the fact that we've seen all these guys play for 2 seasons and then go off and get drafted or sign as undrafted free agents and make the team or make the practice squad, it gives you, I mean, it makes you proud. It does. I mean, you see these guys going off and doing bigger and better things, and I mean, you're just proud. I mean, in terms of this list, I mean, I guess I'll just read it off now. Alon Ali, he made the Vikings practice squad. Steve Avila, making it to the Rams, so he's going to be down in LA with a bunch of his other former TCU Horned Frogs. But those 2 guys were massive for TCU, especially this last season, playing, if I'm not mistaken, every single snap this last season. Then you got Tay Barber going down to Florida to play with the Buccaneers. Darius Davis going to the Chargers. Amari DiMercado with the Cardinals. Really glad to see him make the team. I wasn't sure. I felt like he might have been a bubble player, but glad to see Amari make that full roster.
I mean, his Fiesta Bowl performance, he's just going to go right back to that stadium.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I mean, DiMercado, he's always a hard runner. So, I mean, again, really happy to see him making that 53-man roster. Max Duggan did get waived, but he signed with the practice squad for the Los Angeles Chargers. Dylan Horton now going to the Texans. Quentin Johnson to the Chargers. Kendre Miller to the Saints. I'm really excited about that. And then Travius Hodges-Tomlinson to the Rams, and D. Winters going to the Bay Area with the Niners. I mean, crazy.
It's a really good time. And it's, again, something to be proud of as TCU fans. And TCU students, you can always point to, like, hey, if you're watching a 49ers game, you can say, hey, I remember when he had that pick 6 in the Fiesta Bowl. I'm talking about D. Winters here. Or you can, look at Dylan Horton, who is not a guy that, if you were talking to the general college football fan, they might not know who Dylan Horton was, but Dylan Horton was really, really impactful on this TCU squad. And it's cool to, like, kind of know a backstory for a lot of these guys and just to know that. And also, it's kind of fun to see these videos, especially with the Chargers posting on social media, like TCU and the C stands for Chargers. It's like it's it's really, really fun to, like, watch all these guys still kind of meshing together, even after they've put the TCU pads down and put on the NFL ones. It's cool to see that they're still kind of bleeding purple and white.
Yeah, and another thing too is just one last quick point I wanted to make was it's not like when you go to a bigger school and you see these players, it's kind of like if you go to Alabama or LSU, you expect these players to make it. And to me, it's a lot cooler because TCU is a lot smaller and we walk past these guys. We have classes with these guys. Like, it's not just another player. It's almost like you have some of us have relationships with these players. So it's not just seeing one of our guys go to the NFL. It's like someone that we actually kind of know in a way, depending on, your relationship with them. So that's another thing too. It's like, it's really cool because TCU is such a close, tight-knit community, and the small university makes that happen, and it's really cool to just see that all come together.
Yeah, and again, kind of just touch on that, right? I mean, it's such a small community here, right? And everyone loves these players. And I think also, and us three, I mean, we might be a little biased here, and I think that's fair to say, but each of these guys are good guys too. Mm-hmm. And I mean, TCU, not only do they put out great products of players on the field, but they also put out great men of respect and integrity. I mean, these guys show sportsmanship left and right. They work so incredibly hard in the off season and during the season. And I mean, again, and just to see how last season went for these guys, obviously didn't win the Big 12 championship, couldn't do much in the national championship, but for them to then now go on and pursuing these careers, I mean, you just can't root against them, especially if you're a TCU Horned Frog fan.
Yeah, and Max Duggan, I think, is the perfect representation of that. Like, someone you'll never see him in a headline for the wrong reason. He's always saying the right thing. He's a pretty down to earth guy. I think we've seen him in press conferences. People. We've had conversations. We've had some conversations with him. He's just a really down to earth guy. So, yeah, I think TCU definitely puts athletes in really good positions and guys of integrity and respect.
I'm really excited for this NFL season. There's just so much to look forward to. TCU Cowboys fantasy football, all the different types of things. Football in general is just nice to have that back, especially here in Texas. I don't know if y'all have had the opportunity. I would love to welcome you to the high school football community as well here in DFW.
It's crazy.
It's great. Just strap on my back and we'll go watch some random
Alito. Let's check out Alito. I'm so down.
My dad played high school football in Texas. He was a quarterback.
Oh.
So yeah, like he was good. And like, he tells me about these, like, so many people coming in these games, thousands of people, and you don't really well, you do believe it, but you don't really believe it until you actually see these stadiums, and it's incredible to see the atmosphere. We definitely got to go to one.
Pull up to the Wiley East Grand Prairie game tomorrow if you're listening live. If you're listening on the podcast version, it is tonight. Pull up 8 o'clock. Go for Warrior Bowl. I'll be up in the press box. Wave high.
Okay.
All right, folks. Well, that brings us pretty much to the end of our first episode of the Riff Ram Review here on 88.7 KTCU The Choice. It's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed this, gentlemen. This is our first episode of many more. And again, this has been in the works for a while, and we're so excited to bring it to you all. And to everyone that's listened, whether you've listened for the full 2 hours or for 5 minutes or for 1 minute, or tuned in and you said, who's that crazy guy singing that song from Jack Harlow?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. No, seriously. I mean, thank you to everyone listening. And to those that are still listening, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok at Riff Ram Review, and tune in on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This will be uploaded. Each of these episodes will be uploaded to podcast platforms. And so follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Riff Ram Review. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, just to reiterate that. And we will be live every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. here from the from the KTCU studios. But yeah.
And 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time.
6 to 8 p.m. Central Time. So really looking forward to next Wednesday. So yeah, check back in with us next week, and we'll have a great episode for you guys as well. You're listening to Riff Ram Review here on 88.7 KTCU The Choice, your choice for college radio.